I really miss when the Democratic Party was the anti-war party. Now we're going to see probably a majority of Democrats on this vote for cluster munitions that are killing civilians, that will cost taxpayer money. I would object to the proposition that the House of Representatives has to outsource our thinking on the cluster munitions questions to Ukraine. Like, when did we substitute their judgment for ours? And I think that this notion that they're essential to warfighting is belied by the actual casualty numbers. If you believe that 95% of the people killed were children, not enemy combatants, which is what the New York Times is telling us, then I think that adoption of the amendment is appropriate. And yeah, we should not be in a race to the bottom for the weapon systems that are the least discriminate and are the most harmful to people who are not engaged in warfare. I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to yield 1.5 minutes to the gentleman, my friend from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson.
Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Congressman Moulton. I oppose this amendment. Prohibiting the transfer of cluster munitions, specifically in the context of Ukraine, would have disastrous impacts on the Ukrainian ability to push back war criminal Putin's barbaric invasion of Ukraine. Russia is currently using every weapon in their arsenal, including cluster munitions, to murder civilians and hit civilian infrastructure. I have seen firsthand in Bucha, Ukraine, where families were forced from their home, their hands were tied behind their back, and then the Putin troops shot the members of the family in the head and buried them in the yard. We must fight back. Additionally, in the Indo-Pacific, it has been reported by Admiral Harry Harris that this is a deterrent to the dictatorship of Kim Jong-un of North Korea, and that is that we know the largest artillery complex in the world is facing the people of Seoul, Korea. We're in a conflict we did not choose of dictators with rule of gun invading democracies with rule of law, threatening civilians. And it's always been clear that Ukraine is the first invasion of this current conflict, and with further promises by Putin to restore the Soviet Union by invading Georgia and Moldova, threatening Armenia, Estonia, and Poland, we know that we must support Ukraine as essential for Ukraine, as essential for the United States. We can see that today, as Putin has sent nuclear warships to Cuba, 90 miles away from our border. We must stand together with the people of Ukraine and provide them the best equipment to stop the war criminal Putin. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
I sure hope we don't have to rely on cluster munitions to deter submarines off the coast of Florida, because not being a munitions expert, I would suggest that probably wouldn't be too effective, because I think the submarines are in the water. I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to close. May I inquire how much time I have left?
Gentleman from
prepared to close.
Florida is prepared to close. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized to close. The gentleman has the right to close. The gentleman has the right to close from Florida.
How much time do I have remaining, Mr. Speaker?
You have how much time is it? You have 45 seconds.
Yeah. Just great appreciation of the bipartisan consensus around this. I really miss when the Democratic Party was the anti-war party. Now we're going to see probably a majority of Democrats on this vote for cluster munitions that are killing civilians, that will cost taxpayer money, and they're not even the best deterrent. There's just defense contractors that make them and a country that wants them, and so we're willing to accommodate that death. And I think that I hope this debate illuminates the foolishness of the United States exporting cluster munitions. Then we'll have a more responsible consciousness moving forward. I urge the adoption of the amendment.